everything else I have filmed for this series has not been messed up in any way. Completely spooky for Spooktober, I guess. Anyway, another true crime video for you tonight. This is the case of the Halloween killer, and it really disturbed me. So I hope you enjoy it and you're not disturbed like I was. We're going to talk about Lisa French tonight. Or you may know her as Lisa Ann French. Lisa was 9 years old and she wanted to be a butterfly for trick-or-treating. And her mother said, "No, it is too cold outside. It is too flimsy. You have to wear something else." So Lisa chose a hobo outfit instead. In 1973, everyone's kids trick-or-treated after dark on Halloween, and Lisa was eager to get started after she finished dinner. She kissed her parents goodbye and ran out of the house at 192 Aimee Street just before 6 p.m. in jeans covered with masking tape, a floppy felt hat, and a green parka. And she had dotted her little face with freckles. This was the last time that her mother and stepfather would see her alive. A fourth grader at Chinwin Elementary School, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. Lisa had deep brown eyes, a trendy, shaggy haircut that her mother had given her. She was a beautician. And a grin that revealed her new teeth growing in. The working class neighborhood in northeast Wisconsin was tree-lined with sidewalks scattered in autumn leaves. Porch lights had been turned on, and candy dishes were waiting by all of the doorways, which sounds like exactly the town I want to live in. Now, the plan was that Lisa was going to meet her friend, and I'm so sick of these stupid gnats, head to Pumpkin Place, a block on East Bank Street where some parents were hosting an outdoor party. There had been reports around the county of poisoned Halloween candy and razor blades left in apples, so the community wanted to provide a safe place where the children could still celebrate Halloween. Ann Parker says that she still lives with guilt and wonders how things would have turned out differently if she had joined Lisa for this night of trick-or-treating fun that they had planned, but she had misbehaved, and at the last minute, she was forbidden to accompany her best friend. "We were inseparable back then," said Parker. "I loved being with Lisa because she was funny and bubbly and outgoing." Lisa made 3 stops that night at homes in the neighborhood. One was a teacher named Karen. Another was the home of a classmate who lived just across the street. And the third doorstep that Lisa landed on was a Mr. Turner's place. She was about a half a block from home, and Mr. Turner was familiar. He was was sure that Arlene was gone, he put Lisa and her clothing into garbage bags and dumped her on the outskirts of town. Now, Lisa was told to be home by 7 p.m., and her mother, who was caring for her newborn son, Michael, was beginning to worry at a half an hour past curfew. By 10 p.m., the neighborhood had heard that one of their own was missing, and Betty Wolfield, the head of the block of parents, the PTA-sponsored group, made calls to 50 other parents, telling them to turn on their lights and to put signboards in their windows. The police began an all-night search, and as word spread the next day, upwards of 5,000 people joined in the massive community-wide hunt for the missing 9-year-old Lisa French. National Guard helicopters came, private planes circled overhead, volunteers on horseback rode through the fields, Land Rover vehicles scoured the marshlands, and police dragged the creeks and rivers. No sign of Lisa. Mercury Marine's photo lab printed 6,000 copies of Lisa's school photo, and gas stations offered 25 gallons of free gas to anyone using a vehicle to search for this little girl. It wasn't until 2.5 days later, when farmer Gerald Braun was on his tractor returning home about 11 a.m. Saturday morning, when he stumbled upon the 2 garbage bags in the brush along McCabe Road, just off Highway 49. Wayne Geese from the sheriff's office was called to the scene, and he said later on in an interview that it was the worst possible thing that could have happened. I saw that little girl, and I don't know how any man could do that. Turner should never, ever be released. When word spread that Lisa's body had been found, people wept openly. The Reverend Clarence Nicolai, a pastor at St. Peter's Church in Malone, was reported to have climbed a barbed wire fence. I don't know what that is. He was reported to have climbed a barbed wire fence and cut his own hand to reach Lisa's body. He said the Our Father and Hail Mary over her small body. Reverend Nicolai served as the parish priest for 48 years in the Milwaukee Archdiocese, including many years at St. Peter's. He passed away in 1994 following a lingering illness, but he said that that was one situation that he just never could get past. The death of Lisa Ann French wasn't just one family's tragedy. On November 6, 1973, a grieving community packed Emmanuel Trinity Lutheran Church to pay their respects to this little girl that they had prayed so hard was alive. They filed past the white casket and viewed Lisa wearing the purple and white dress she had worn for picture day at school. Classmates and fellow Girl Scout troops, from Troop 16, I should say, took up 9 rows inside of the church. Lisa's mother styled her daughter's hair for her funeral. City manager Myron Benton Jr. spoke to the mourners. "We are here. The entire city in spirit is here to share your sorrow." Now, there's some things that go on with Gerald Turner, and he was finally arrested 9 months after Lisa was reported missing. Fond du Lac Police Chief Harold Rottenberg told the press they had been questioning Gerald Turner since the day after Lisa's body was found. confessed to killing Lisa, but later told the jurors that they were not his words and denied killing her, this 9-year-old that he had befriended. He said, "Well, I got sick and tired of being harassed by the police, so I said, I did it, and that's why I signed the statement, because I was tired of them harassing me." No, dude. Mr. Turner was a machinist for the railroad, and 25 at the time. He was divorced with 2 small children, and told the detectives that he was highly sexually motivated when he took Lisa to his bedroom on Halloween night. He said that at one point he noticed she wasn't breathing, and he tried to revive her, but that was when his girlfriend arrived home. He put socks on his hands to move Lisa's body to the bathroom. An autopsy conducted by the Fond du Lac County Medical Examiner ruled asphyxiation as the cause of death. A pathologist testified that she died from shock during the assault, and that just absolutely broke my heart. She was completely terrified that this man who was her friend was hurting her, and I just can't. Gerald Turner was found guilty of second-degree murder, enticing a child for immoral purposes, and acts of sexual perversion. He began serving his prison sentence February 4th of 1975. He has a cold disregard for people, testified Robert Owens, the chief psychologist at the correctional institution. It was said in his trial that he doesn't have conscious control to inhibit his impulses for pleasure and to conform to society's laws. The presiding circuit court judge said that he showed no remorse, no feeling of repentance. He was a neighbor, Gerald Turner, someone she knew. His brutal assault and murder of a trick-or-treater on Halloween 1973 is still remembered as one of the most heinous crimes in the city's history. Gerald Turner would be dubbed the Halloween Killer, and the incident gave reason for the city to change trick-or-treating to daylight hours. During his incarceration, Gerald wrote a letter to Lisa, but it was never seen until a file of paperwork was released in 1999. And this letter read, quote, "I doubt I could ever fully realize the terror you experienced at my hands. I can still see you standing in the doorway with that felt hat beaming at having recognized me. Then I see the delight in your eyes turn to fear as I close the door behind you. The rest of my life, I will have to live with what I did to you." End quote. This is where I got horrified, y'all. Now, I'm horrified at what he did to her, don't get me wrong, but we've covered a lot of worse things here on my channel. But in 1992, Gerald Turner was paroled for good behavior. I'm sorry, what? After serving 17 years and 8 months. From there, he went to live at a halfway house on Milwaukee's north side. City, county, and state officials, along with people from the Milwaukee neighborhood, picketed against Turner living at the halfway house. For a while, he found work at a recycling plant, but he was fired after picketers turned up there as well. In November of 93, Gerald Turner was ordered back to prison when a civil lawsuit filed by angry citizens led to an appeals court decision Wisconsin is one of several states that bars employers from considering convictions when hiring. In 2003, a judge ordered Gerald Turner back to prison to serve another 15 years for violating his parole after authorities found pornographic images on a computer drive, as well as sexually explicit videos and magazines at the Foster Community Correctional House, the Madison halfway house where Gerald Turner was staying. A sapling maple has grown over the years into an immense tree at the foot of Lisa's grave in Estabrook's Cemetery in Fond du Lac. Her mom says that she used to have dreams of what her daughter would have looked like all grown up, but they've faded over time. In 1985, she wrote to Gerald Turner in prison and sent him copies of notes that she'd discovered tucked inside Lisa's Bible. On the day of Lisa's funeral, her mother found the notes in her room, folded in half and stapled shut, labeled "A Gift from God." One of them reads, "If you ask Jesus to take over, you will begin a new life." Another says, "Smile, God loves you." Turner never wrote back, but Lisa's mom says she does recall the moment her daughter's killer turned to her in the courtroom before his